Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Broken Worship Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Mitchell, and it's sure good to be back. I hope that everyone is doing well. I hope you guys had a great holiday season and a happy new year. I want to apologize for the long delay on the podcast. I had to take a break from the podcast as I was adjusting to my new job at my local nursing home. And as I will discuss in detail in this episode, I had to put a lot of time in the last few months on my new book that has just come out, which I am super stoked to share with you all. Unfortunately, the political climate hasn't tamed since the release of my last podcast episode with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There have been public shootings which involved ICE agents and protesters in Minneapolis. I know that these incidences are a very heated and sensitive topic for many people, and unfortunately, they have created even more tension and division in this nation. It's not hard to see how broken this world has become. You can't watch the news or scroll through your social media without seeing the hatred and the division in this country. It can feel hopeless at times. At times, all I can do is throw my hands up and think we are too far gone. My only hope is knowing that ultimately this world is not my home. One day, I will be able to be in the presence of God Almighty and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in paradise. This brings me back to the quote that I made for Broken Worship. Don't look for salvation within politics. Don't look for freedom within your country. Don't look for peace within this world. Don't look for truth within any human. Salvation, freedom, peace and truth only comes from Jesus. Before we move on, I did want to mention one more life update for you guys. For quite a while, I have had this bump on my left pinky finger. In the last 3 months or so, if not longer, the bump has grown so big that I can't bend my pinky finger straight. It really creeps me out. It doesn't hurt, but it's definitely uncomfortable. It's actually weird as I was typing, preparing for this episode with my pinky. But anyway, I had a doctor's appointment for it, and just recently met with a hand specialist, and there is some kind of growth in my pinky. I actually have a surgery scheduled to remove the cyst in my pinky, and it's actually going to be kind of a big deal. I'm going to be going under general anesthesia and going to be taking a couple weeks off of work for recovery. Thankfully, I do have insurance with my employer. However, we all know how expensive medical treatment is, and I am sure that I'm going to be stuck with a big medical bill for the surgery. But I am nervous and excited about finally getting the growth off my pinky finger and have it removed and being able to bend it straight again. So now I think it's time to dig into our segment called What's New with Music? For this music segment, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the new EP that one of my all-time favorite rappers named NF put out. The EP that NF just put out is called Fear. This Fear EP, in my humble opinion, is a pure work of art and is a genuine masterpiece. This EP will have you in tears, leave you speechless, pump you up, and put you in the feels. I know that there have been and will be haters who hate on this EP because it's not all filled with crazy rap flows or rapping over crazy beats. Again, in my humble opinion, if you hate on this EP because it doesn't fulfill your expectations of crazy raps and crazy beats, and you can overlook the authenticity, the emotions, the vulnerability, and beautiful artistry within this EP. I genuinely don't respect your thoughts or input on music or your music taste. When I first listened to the EP, I couldn't put it down. I was listening to it all the time, watching YouTube reactors analyze the depth of this EP, and it was just blowing my mind. What was unexpected yet beautiful was NF's genuine, vulnerable authenticity. This EP followed his last full-length album, which was called Hope, where he was healing from the trauma of his mother leaving them through an overdose, his broken childhood, and his mental health journey. After the Hope album, we didn't know where NF would go from there, since it was actually an uplifting, hopeful album. But with this new EP, we learned that NF lost his grandmother, which I assume was a huge part of raising him and his siblings, and his mental health started deteriorating again. It felt like all his progress from the Hope album was backsliding. I have a genuine question for my listeners. How many rappers that you know of will put out songs that talk about their deteriorating mental health? So much of the mainstream rap puts out trash content about riches, power, and fame. It is a rare gem hearing real content like NF is putting out. Now, I will say there are a few rare artists I know of who are going against the mainstream media garbage, such as Tom McDonald, Dax, Hobson, and Ren. But overall, the mainstream rap game is garbage. I can't say a single bad thing about NF's new EP called Fear. I definitely give it a 10 out of 10, 5-star rating. And I definitely hope you guys will check it out. So that's a wrap on What's New with Music. Now it's time to get into today's topic, which I am excited to share with you all today. Today we will be talking about my new book called Grace, Love, and Some Football. But before we get started on that, I wanted to share a Bible verse with you all. Today we will be reading from the book of Mark, chapter 8, verses 34 through 38. And I will give you all a minute if you would like to follow along in your own Bible. Again, it's the book of Mark, chapter 8, verses 34 through 38. So I'll give you guys a minute if you would like to follow along. Okay, the book of Mark, chapter 8, verses 34 through 38. He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? For those who are ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when he comes in glory of his Father with the holy angels." Growing up, as I got into metal music and went through my emo phase in middle and high school, I used to think watching or being a football fan was too preppy for me. Football was for the high school preps and jocks, and I couldn't be associated with that. I was the emo in skinny jeans, band t-shirts, and a beanie. It was actually my friend Taylor who helped get me into metal, which showed me that you can love metal and football. Taylor is a huge Green Bay Packers fan, and he always followed them, which is definitely different for me, as I saw him in trip pants and Disturbed t-shirts. I'm really grateful to Taylor not only for helping me get into the metal music world, but also for letting me know it is alright to be a metalhead and a football fan. My dad loves the Minnesota Vikings, and watching them is a cool way for me to connect with him. I also love talking to him about football games on Sunday. If I were too proud to let myself watch football games because I love metal music, I would really miss that connection with my dad and Taylor too. I also love that my wife, Debbie, loves watching football games with me. Not every woman would be okay with or even appreciate watching football every Sunday, so I am very grateful that my wife not only is willing, but also enjoys watching the games with me. I always say she should be an NFL commentator because she always cracks me up with her commentary. With the understanding that I do love watching football, I do, however, understand that there can be a toxicity to the sports mentality and the football world. I do my best to make it to the gym once a week to help keep myself in shape. The body is a temple, as they say, and I try to help keep myself in reasonable shape. However, I do not let myself or have any desire to become infatuated with my body or working out my life. In the locker room, I see so many guys talking about their workouts and diets. It really nauseates me seeing them looking at themselves in the mirror while flexing. Their whole lives and their entire identities are wrapped up in how they look and how muscular and attractive they are. They are becoming their own god. As Mark chapter 8 verses 34 to 38 says, if we want to be followers of Jesus, we must deny ourselves, pick up our cross, and follow him. What good is it if we can have everything that we think we want, but lose our souls? In the last few years, as I was spending time visiting my grandma, and then her roommate Lenore after my grandma passed away, and now working at my local nursing home, I personally witnessed how fragile and brief this time is here on earth. People never expect to become bound by a wheelchair and in need of assistance to eat or even to go to the bathroom. Life happens fast, and we all will inevitably age and experience our mortality. The more that I am in the nursing home environment, the more I value not only the marginalized and the least of these in society, but also the meaning of our lives. Our lives aren't about our material possessions, but about the relationships that we make and the love we offer others and receive. It breaks my heart seeing residents of a nursing home never getting family visitors. The staff and other residents really become all they have. Kindness, compassion, and love, that is what life is about. Not about how big our house is, how fast our car is, or who you voted for. It's about the love you have for others and the relationships that you create. There is a beauty in relationships and in humanity. We just have to get over ourselves and our immediate wants and needs and realize that there is more to life than our selfish desires. So, as I have said, I recently released a new book called Grace, Love, and Some Football. I am very excited about this release because this is my first book that was not self-published. With Grace, Love, and Some Football, I was able to publish with a Christian publishing company out of Rapid City, South Dakota called New Harbor Press. I am grateful for the 6 books I self-published with Blurb, but with this new book, especially since it was my first fiction novel, I wanted to grow as a writer and work with an actual publisher. I was very excited that New Harbor Press was not only local to my home state of South Dakota, but also a Christian publisher. They have been excellent to work with and very good at staying in communication with me throughout the publishing process. I was very grateful for the professional editing they provided, the formatting and cover design they created, and the marketing for my book, including a press release and video book trailer. Overall, it was a great experience publishing with New Harbor Press, and they were very affordable compared to other publishing routes I looked into. I would be very willing and excited to publish with New Harbor Press again. As I said, with this book, I wanted to grow as a writer, with it being my 7th book. I wanted to expand my writing style and do something different from what I have done in my previous books. In my book titled Saving Grace, It's Not About You Anymore, I did write some short snippets of fiction stories throughout the chapters of my book, and it made me want to pursue trying to write a whole fiction novel, which helped inspire Grace, Love, and Some Football. I actually really enjoyed writing a fiction novel. I told Debbie this while I was writing this book. Once I started planning the storyline and writing, it was almost like the story was writing itself, and I was just a vessel writing it down. I remember planning to write a certain number of chapters, only to realize the story required more than I originally thought. It was really fun developing the characters and getting into their mind, like getting to know the person you are writing about. It was interesting to hear my wife Debbie envisioned for what my wife Debbie envisioned for the story's characters and how it differed from my own vision. I'm excited to hear how people interpret the story and its characters and how they connect with them. I really hope and pray that people enjoy reading this book, that they enjoy the plot and the character development, and most importantly, that the message is portrayed properly and that people can really connect with it. As with all of my writing, I hope Grace, Love, and Some Football can really show God's grace and love for us and our call to live by the greatest commandment of loving God with all that we are and loving our neighbor as ourselves. I also hope that people are inspired by the story's power of redemption and come to know the power of God's redemption in their lives. We all carry trauma, baggage, family issues, impossible expectations, addictions, and selfish intentions. And we all have felt or experienced the brokenness in our own lives. I believe we all have to come face to face with the question of continuing down our own sinful and broken path, or humbly acknowledging our need for a Savior and our need for redemption. I believe the biggest thing that keeps us from a relationship with God is our own pride. And I believe I really show the danger and destruction that sinful pride brings throughout the story of my new book. One thing I know for sure, I am definitely excited about the release of my new book. However, as I reflect on the writing and publishing process, I really hate the editing. Editing is by far my least favorite part of writing. I swear it takes just as much effort, if not more, doing the editing process than it takes to write the initial manuscript. I could probably have published twice as many books if the editing process weren't involved. I do want to make sure I say that New Harbor Press was excellent at working with me through the editing process and putting up with how many corrections Debbie and I had to make to the manuscript. I thank God that Debbie is supportive and loves me enough to read my book so many times to help me with corrections. I could not have done this without her. So shout out to Debbie. I love you. With this book done, I do know that I want to get back to my first love of writing, which is poetry. I would also like to explore writing a horror thriller novel, as well as a 30-day devotional for new believers or people interested in faith but not sure where to begin. But for now, I am excited to enjoy and celebrate this new book with you all. I certainly hope and pray that my book, Grace, Love, and Some Football, will inspire many readers and make an impact for Christ. I want to thank you all for continuing to support me in my journey as an author. It truly means the world to me. Before we wrap things up, I want to make sure that I say that if you are not a Christian, and if the information from the messages that I share or anything that I say on the podcast is not your truth, that is totally all right. And I want you to know that there is no judgment here. I just want to thank you for being here, encourage you to keep spreading your love and light into this world, and let you know that you have a plan and a purpose in this life, and that you are loved. Also, if you ever have any questions or you would like to share your story, please feel free to reach out. I would love to hear from you. One last thing before we wrap up, I want to make sure that I mention that I will post all the links where my new book is available to purchase, as well as the video trailers for my new book in the description below. I want to thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Broken Worship Podcast. If you would like to help support Broken Worship, I would love it if you could check out the Broken Worship website at www.broken-worship.com. All 7 of my published books, as well as dope Broken Worship merch, are all available on the Broken Worship website. Another easy way to support Broken Worship and to stay up to date with all things new for Broken Worship is to like, share, and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. All of this information will be provided in the description below. Thanks again for tuning into this episode of the Broken Worship Podcast. I am so humbled and blessed by all the support that I receive for Broken Worship. Thanks again, and I love you all. Be sure to let everyone you know what we do here in the Broken Worship community. Here in the Broken Worship community, we remember, even in our brokenness, we have a reason to worship. Thank you, and God bless. My candle in the darkness.